Welcome to Stand Out from the Crowd, the podcast dedicated to helping professionals and leaders amplify their voice, impact, and influence. Are you ready? Let's go.
Hello, bonjour, salam alaikum, beautiful people. Welcome back to another episode. My name is Darine and I'm the host of the Stand Out from the Crowd podcast. Each week, I get the opportunity and the privilege to interview some of the brightest leaders and entrepreneurs of our time. As people, we have strengths, weaknesses, positive and bad experiences, and our stories are what connect us as humans, right? And we talk all about it without filter. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave your review on the podcast. I would greatly appreciate it. And without further ado, let's dive into today's topic. So, listen, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Well, I would say only if you have the right perspective and are willing to learn. In times of struggles, having a resilient spirit becomes an asset that seems to transform challenges into opportunities. Now, the question becomes, how do we learn and grow from our challenges instead of becoming trapped by them? So today, our stand-up guest, Milan Mullings, is a successful entrepreneur, cancer survivor, and number one best-selling author. During our conversation, she will share her story and how through her cancer journey and miraculous recovery, she gained an understanding of her purpose, faith, and the power of a positive mindset, all of which laid the foundation for her success. So please help me welcome Milan to Stand Out from the Crowd. Good morning, Milan. How are you doing today?
I am doing well. Good morning. Thank you so much for having me, Darine.
I'm so glad and I'm so pleased by the opportunity to get to learn more about your journey and to have the opportunity to share it with our audience because let me tell you people, the first time I heard her story, it was during a TEDx event, and I was blown away by her strengths and all the positive attitude and the experiences, and you were just shining and spreading the positive vibes all around. And I was like, no, I need to reach out to her and I need to invite her on the Stand Up from the Crowd podcast. So thank you very much for being here with us.
Oh, it's such a blessing to be here. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Yeah, so as usual, please use the comment sections to introduce yourself, let us know where you are tuning in from, and ask your questions. Share your experience. Oftentimes, as humans, and I do believe it's kind of normal, when we go through challenges, we feel like this is the end of the world, when actually it is not. But when everything is, negative or going bad or falling apart around you, it's hard to be able to see beyond that point and to envision a positive outcome out of the situation.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit more about the difficult challenges and circumstances that you faced uh, pretty much early in life.
Hmm. Whew, loaded question. so, the experience that I discuss in detail in my book Lemonade um, really is centered around my cancer journey. When I was 17, I was diagnosed with leukemia and I almost died. I came very close. I contracted a blood infection shortly after I finished my second round of chemo. And at one point, the doctors came to my family and said, it's time to prepare. This is looking like it's possibly the end. And so I really had so much faith, Doreen. I was born and raised a Christian, and I had never really experienced my faith. Right, I knew it intellectually and what I heard in church, etc. But this was the first time I actually had to live that faith.
Mhm.
So I just came to a point where, for me, strangely enough, I guess, do that to you. You just, yeah, of course God's going to heal me. Yeah, yeah, let's do this. Let's, give me the chemo. Let's go. But as it happened, I would go through the different side effects, etc. It started to shake my faith a little bit.
Oh, wow.
And so I experienced a miraculous recovery. One night, my mom had called some leaders from our church around my bed and they prayed. And I had this experience that I write about in the book where I just felt myself falling, felt myself dying,
Oh,
and
wow.
had a conversation with God. I'm ready to go. Um, but at the end of the day, God wasn't ready for me to go yet. And so, through that experience of surviving leukemia, testing, having my faith tested, I learned principles that formed the foundations upon which I grew a successful business over 2 decades later. So, and also when I started my business, I met into a car accident,
Oh,
and
wow.
that also it was 3 months after I incorporated my business. I was in physio for almost 4 years, and so the lessons that I learned from my cancer journey, I reapplied to this new challenge, and both of them really helped me develop the resilience and walk out my faith again to believe that the business that I started could experience sustainable success.
Oh, wow, that's impressive. And we have a couple of people here joining us. I see Ahmed from Africa, Christine from Turkey, Sakina from Morocco. So thank you. We have a beautiful international community here, and I'm sure your story will inspire many. So early on in life, you understood that, okay, like I need to maybe God is testing my faith, and I will stick to it, and maybe I will prove him wrong, right? That no matter what I'm going through, my faith is strong enough and will help me to go through everything in life. And I love that. So because some of us call it faith, some of us call it positive mindset, some of us believe in the vibration and the energy in the air. But I have heard a couple of times actually that no matter what you are going through, being ill or being like going to challenges, the mindset can have a miraculous positive impact on your ability to recover to almost anything in life. I want to say so. Did you realize at this point that on top of your faith, or in addition, I should say, to your faith, during your cancer journey and then during your recovery from the accident, you realize that your mindset was a powerful tool that could take you through everything in life?
Absolutely, Doreen. Absolutely. I write about this very concept in chapter 3 of my book, and
Mm-hmm.
that chapter is on the power of perspective. So, how we perceive a thing, so what we believe about it, directly impacts, which then manifests in our results. So, Henry Ford was quoted as saying, I believe, whether you believe you're right or wrong, you're right,
You're right.
or you can,
Yes.
you're right, right? And so, because our beliefs, if I don't think I can do it, well, then I'm not going to do it, right? If I believe that I can make it, if we can just set the intention to perceive our circumstances differently, that will set the foundation upon which we will actually start to act in that manner of belief, and then that will show up in our results. So the mind is so, so powerful. And I actually witnessed this. After my cancer journey, I became an RN years later. I didn't want any other patient to go through what I went through when I was hospitalized. So I became an RN. And while I was a registered nurse, Doreen, I saw so many patients,
Mm.
in situations where the doctor's diagnosis, even what I saw as an RN, I'm looking at the blood, counts and everything else, and you start to think, But the mindset of those patients, just the strength and the resilience that they had, saw them through. And so
Wow.
I've lived that. I've seen it myself, the power of that positive mindset to transform our circumstances.
So
100% possible.
yes, and I agree with you on that 100%. But I feel, for we say it, and
Yes.
a lot of people hear it, right? But how do you make that shift, right?
Right.
How do you push yourself to go from, oh, I'm never gonna make it, it's gonna be hard, or whatever the situation is, this is the end and everything, to I know I can change the outcome of my situation. How do you make that shift? Is there like a aha moment, or like is that something that you have to push yourself to work on a daily basis? Tell us a little bit more about it.
Oh, yes. It's something to work on a daily basis. I believe that hope is the greatest motivator, the greatest motivator. If you can hope and just lack the belief that it is possible, even just today, say, you know what? I'm going to choose to believe. In my book, I talk about I'm going to make the executive decision to believe today, just today, that it my circumstances could potentially change. And one of the ways that I find very useful to keep my mind focused on where I'm going, because that's the key, is what do we focus on? Expand
Mhm.
what we focus on expands. So if I can just get to the place today to hope tomorrow could be better. Okay. So tell myself that it could be better. Then what do I feed my mind? Am I feeding my mind, visions or, um, um, you know, understandings that it can actually be better? Am I surrounded with people that are encouraging that mindset that it could be better? It's all about what I'm feeding my mind in that space of hope and belief. Because I can tell myself, and one thing I really want to stress here, Doreen, is that feelings are not facts. So
Mm.
I can wake up today and feel depressed, or I could feel like I'm not going to make it. But just because I feel it, it doesn't mean it's a fact, right?
True.
So if I can just say today, just today, I'm going to choose to believe that I'm going to make it. I'm going to make the decision to believe. And then I have to feed that belief with what I listen to, who I choose to, speak into my life, what I'm reading, what I'm focusing on. Because at the end of the day, our vision, I speak about this again in chapter 3 of my book in detail. What we understand about the future and what we want for ourselves, we actually have to hold it in our mind and visualize it. What is it going to be like for this to happen? And this is one of the strategies that I learned while I was struggling and fighting for my life with leukemia. I, had never been to Hawaii, and it's a place that I had always wanted to go. And while I was, and I mentioned this in the TEDx talk that you
Mhm.
may remember, Doreen, when I would have, bone marrow aspiration tests where a 4-inch needle was drilled into my back to suck out bone marrow for testing, I would think about what would it be like to be in Hawaii? What would it smell like? What would it sound
Mm.
like? What would the air sound like? And while I'm going through these excruciatingly painful circumstances, my mind was in a place where I wanted to be. What I visualized would be
Mhm.
life
You change
after.
your focus. You change your focus in that moment.
Yes. And so just continually doing that step by step, day after day. Today, I'm going to wake up tomorrow and I'm going to set the intention. I'm going to choose to believe X, Y, and Z. I'm going to choose to believe my business can be successful. I'm going to choose to believe that I can get out of debt. I'm going to choose to believe that my relationship can get better. Whatever it is that your audience is looking and aspiring toward, holding that vision in your mind, and as a key tip, really making that vision vivid through your 5 senses. What would it feel like to have X? What would it sound like? Would the air, all of that. And when it becomes more vivid, Doreen, that makes it a more powerful and greater likelihood that you'll actually move into the direction where that will become manifest.
And that's very important what you say, because actually when you talk about, creating, envisioning this experience with your five senses. But the thing is, what we are doing is we are training our mindset to see it as a reality. And so
Yes.
if your mindset sees it as a reality, then it will become a reality, because no matter what you do, the actions, consciously or unconsciously, the actions that you will take and the steps that you will take you towards that direction. So that's very powerful. But what I see here, when you talk about, waking up every morning and making the choice,
Yes.
I see discipline here.
Yes.
And I do believe discipline is challenging for a lot of people, including myself.
Mhm.
Like I talk a lot
And
about
at times myself.
all of us, people. So if you have challenges being disciplined, no worries. It's normal, because I do believe discipline takes us out of of our
Yes.
comfort zone, when actually our brain was trained to keep us safe,
Mm,
right? And
mm,
when you want to push yourself to realize something that you are envisioning, it means that you have to do that push yourself, and
yeah.
again train your brain and your mind to see it as a reality. So how did you include this piece, the discipline, into your daily routine to make it a reality?
Great question. And so for me, Doreen, it came from a place of wanting better. You know, Einstein, I believe, is the one that said that if you keep doing what you've always done, you'll keep getting what you've always got. Right? So it just came from a place of wanting better. I don't want the past, or I want to create success from this business. I
Mhm.
want life of abundance. I want to peace. I want so it's just, I guess, for me, just being tired of the everyday, the same old, and wanting to live a life of impact. And
Yeah.
again, just saying to myself, if I keep doing what I did yesterday, I'll keep getting yesterday's results. So that just pushed me into to have discipline today, because I knew intrinsically that I had to start. If I wanted a different life, if I wanted things to change, I had to do something. I had a part to
Mm,
play. Now,
mm,
yes, I'm a Christian, and I believe that, God will bless your efforts, and also will move in the direction of his perfect will. But I have a part to play. I have to get up and actually make the calls and do the market research and etc. And so I knew that if I didn't execute and become more disciplined, my results would be wishy-washy, for lack of a
yeah.
better word. So for me, it was just being tired of where I was and wanting better. And, you know, I think that I also write about this concept in my book, that if people aren't experiencing enough pain during, they're not going to change, right? That's, a very important aspect of change management, is this idea that if they're, if things are just moving the status quo and they can tolerate it, then they will. But
Yeah.
if your current reality is causing enough consternation, then at that point, for me anyway, it just became natural to
Yeah.
just get up and become disciplined, because I just didn't want where it was coming from any longer. And I knew that I had to implement strategies consistently if I wanted results that would last.
It resonates a lot with me, because shortly before the pandemic started, I went through a phase where for 2 years,
Mhm.
I lost a member of my family every 6 months.
Oh, sorry.
And that was the first time in my life. So I was lucky to have all my family members with me from the day I was born to a couple of years ago. So the first time I encounter, I faced the passing of a family member. Then every 6 months, that was another one. And so that was the hardest period of my life so far. Very difficult, very challenging. And when you say, I don't believe that when you don't go through pain, you cannot change. And it is very true, because
Mm,
I had a successful career, and I was comfortable in my life. And I would hear people talking about gratitude and, motivational stuff. And I would say, oh, yes, yes, yes. But I realized that when I went through the pain I went through, this is when it all became real and all made sense,
Mm,
right? I wasn't grateful. I was happy and I wasn't the kind of person, to complain or to be negative, never. But I wasn't grateful. I was like, because for me, that was just normal. And
right,
then it's when you start losing what's important to you, that realize that what's normal is never forever, and that
right.
you got to be grateful for every single thing
Oh,
that you have in life,
absolutely.
because it is not granted,
Right, right. It's
right?
interesting you're talking about this idea of gratefulness and Thanksgiving because I was just thinking about this morning when I was in my prayer time, that the idea of being grateful, even in the midst of your challenging seasons, I talk about also in the book of, you know, being grateful for at least three new things every day. And
Mhm.
that gratefulness, that praise, that thanksgiving, that spirit is also transformational to your circumstances too. You know, when we have that, grateful mindset, we just view things differently, right?
Yeah.
We show up in the world differently. And I just believe in the power of giving thanks and having that thankful attitude and that thankful spirit. And interestingly enough, people are drawn to people that have that, spirit. When you think about it, um, those in the audience that have children, you know, imagine a child that's ungrateful and one that is grateful. Who do you want to invest in? And who are you happier to, come to rescue, right? It's just those that have that grateful attitude, that grateful spirit, and with that comes a sense of humility too.
True. Yeah.
That's powerful. Just that way of being is powerful.
Very powerful. So now, do you believe that there are real opportunities and real growth without challenges?
Challenges are the greatest teacher. I firmly believe that. And in my book, I talk about how, to turn your challenging life experiences actually contain the root of the understanding of your purpose. So I firmly believe that our challenges are the place of growth. That's the place where we come to uncover our purpose. That's the place of impact. There's a Bible text in the New Testament, in 1 Corinthians 1, 3, 4. It talks about, having the challenges that you go through, that allowing you to be able to comfort others with the comfort that you yourself have received from God. And so when you have endured a challenging life experience, it renders you more compassionate with others. It
Mhm.
renders you more able to speak to that same place of pain in others and live a life of impact. And in my book, I teach how to even use those challenging life experiences to create success in your life, and success that leads to abundance and peace, which I think
Yeah.
is something that we're all striving for. So, 100%, we don't like it. I don't know anyone that likes challenges, right? But they are the greatest teacher, and they also render us more able to be impactful. And really and truly, at the end of the day, I firmly believe that that is why we're here. We're here to be of service. And if you can be of service and also create success from it, hey, that's even better.
Let's do it. So that's the perfect transition to my next question, actually. Did you start a business because of everything you just told us, or that was something that that came naturally to you, or like did you feel like all the things that you went through, that you have learned, that we have been talking about in this conversation, led you to start a business because you knew that you could be successful, and most importantly, you knew that you could make an impact, a positive impact?
Thank you for asking this question. This is so important because I did not know one thing about business, Dream. I had no desire. I had never taken a business course. Nothing in me screamed business at all, period.
Interesting.
And so I was an individual. I was raised with this idea that I would be a doctor. I only had the choice of doctor and lawyer, right? For my parents,
Okay.
okay, I'm going to be a doctor. Sure. Um, but my leukemia experience changed the rest of my life. Every single major decision I have made since surviving leukemia has been because of that experience.
Mm-hmm.
So I started from my leukemia experience years later. As I mentioned earlier, I became an RN. The reason why I became an RN was because I did not want any patient to endure what I did while I was hospitalized. And I talk about this experience in depth in the book. And once I became an RN, I realized that this is not, really fulfilling, the reason why I wanted to start this career. And so um, the enduring reason was because of a nursing shortage that lent itself to the type of care that I received while I was hospitalized. So
Okay.
because I realized while I was an RN that this is not it, I was never at peace as an RN. So the idea, I was researching the nursing shortage and all of these different things on my time off. And a friend said to me once, "Why don't you start a nursing recruitment firm?" And I thought,
Oh.
you know, me, I don't know anything about business. What am I gonna, And I had spent 4 years, Doreen, in independent
Oh,
researching
wow.
just on my time off because I loved it. I was passionate and I cared about it. And so when that thought came to me, I said, okay, well, something to think about, but I just let it go. And then sometime later, I became introduced, or this Bible text really resonated with me, Matthew 21:22, whatever you ask for in prayer, believing you will receive. And I felt impressed that, you know what, I need to start this business. And I talk about this entire experience in the book. And then because I said, you know what, imagine what I could have accomplished in life if I had believed that earlier, going back to
Mm.
conversation about perspective. What do you believe? Do you believe you can accomplish anything? Do we believe that? And I said, you know what? I'm going to take God at his word and I'm going to step out in faith. And so I quit my job, six-figure job. My manager was laughing at me because I was making more money than her at the time. And because I was a casual nurse and I picked my shifts, etc. And I launched out in this direction. I had no idea, but I felt directed by God to do it. I knew purpose and I launched out. It wasn't easy, Doreen. It took me 3.5 years to make my first dollar.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Uh, but because I had that perspective and that faith and kept the hope and progressed forward, eventually it became a sustainable success. And so, yeah, that was my journey. So no, I didn't. It was only my challenging life experience that propelled me into business. And in my book, I provide the 17 strategies that I implemented that
Mm-hmm.
others can implement too to create success from their challenging life experiences as well.
And how long have you been in business now?
So the first business I had for 13 years and I sold it, and I now own a business management consulting firm. I've had that for 2 years. So that would be 15 years I've been in business.
Wow, what a beautiful stories. So, for the people who would like to learn more about your story and learn, all the great tips and strategies that you share in your book, where can they find your book?
So they can go to my website. It's Melane Mullings, MelaneMullings.com. They can take a peek at the website and get the information there. My book is available through Amazon. All the information is on the website of where they can get the book. I would love for your audience to follow me on my Instagram. It's I am Mullings. And on my Facebook is Melane Mullings Fan. I would love to hear their stories and really encourage them to really step out in faith, whatever higher power you believe in, and recognize that a better day is possible. If you can just change your perspective and demonstrate faith and focus on what you're striving toward and surrender to an understanding of your purpose, your success is inevitable. And I have lived that. And I've encouraged my consulting clients and seen the transformation in them as well. So it is possible. And I challenge you to really step out and desire better for yourself
Yeah.
and recognize that it is absolutely possible. We believe.
It is possible. It is possible. We are going to put all your links down below. So please connect with Milan, get her book, and like commit to yourself. Because like at
Yes.
the end of the day, we can talk all along about it, and you can listen to us and to other people, but you gotta commit to yourself first in order to make it happen. So believe in it for yourself, do it for yourself, and just enjoy
Yes.
and reap off the positive effect of everything that you will do for yourself. Melane, thank you so much for being so open and generous with us today. That was wonderful. I mean, I knew that would be a great conversation. Uh, and I love it. I truly appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining us today, watching the live or the replay or listening the podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, rate the podcast, and leave us a review. We will greatly appreciate it. And I will see you next week for another live episode of Stand Out from the Crowd. Thank you, Milan, and thank you, everyone. Bye bye.
Bye bye.